that could otherwise be effective. That while PETA as an organization might have these things, these aspects to them, that the people within PETA don't necessarily always believe that, but use it as a tactic in certain moments in order to convince people to go vegetarian. So Voss pointed out yesterday during his criticism of Singer that it was a criticism that comes out of love because it was Singer's writing that initially propelled him into a vegan lifestyle. This does not mean that Singer's use of ableism, saying that we should kill babies who don't have the same cognitive abilities as normal babies, or quote normal babies, we should look the other way. We should take these opportunities as moments to criticize in order to be able to move forward together and productively. So when I engage with people from the Black Student Union on campus, or people who have focuses on an issue of race or class or gender, who might not be vegetarian, my goal should not be to say, you're not doing enough in order to be able to liberate the world or move us in a direction, but rather to search for those commonalities and where we can figure out ways that we can liberate all creatures, whether it be human, non-human, or other. So by looking to that, and utilizing a vegetarianism framework opposed to one that bases it around purity, where you must be vegan, otherwise you cannot be an ally, it becomes easier to create connections and coalitions with a greater diversity of individuals in order to figure out the ways that these struggles can link up, and eventually, through critical reflection and thinking, those individuals will then ideally be able to adopt a vegetarian or vegan lifestyle after realizing how their struggles to confront race and classism are ones that are intrinsically linked to the way that speciesism affects society, versus, as a white male going into these groups saying, oh, well, you're serving meat at your, general interest meeting, therefore you are always an oppressive organization that I should never be able to take a part of. That is an attempt of me being able to utilize my privilege to go in there to assert what I think is, culturally normal or correct over them. And again, this is not to give them the blank check and saying that the ways in which they serve meat at their general interest meeting is okay, but it's a way to show that there's different ways of engaging with individuals that does not assume that there's a right and a wrong, while simultaneously maintaining what you believe is right in the way that you move forward. E. Patrick Johnson writes, as a theory in flesh, queer necessarily engenders a kind of identity politics, one that acknowledges differences between particular groups. Thus, identity politics does not necessarily mean the reduction of multiple identities into a monolithic identity. Rather, queer studies moves beyond simply theorizing subjectivity and agency is discursively mediated to theorizing how that mediation may propel material bodies into action. E. Patrick Johnson uses the term queer instead of queer, which utilizes the southern dialect of queerness, because he thought that the queer movement represented a very white, affluent way to approach what it means to be queer. So his notion of queer comes from a black understanding of what it means to be queer. And he doesn't, when he performs his critique of queerness within his writing, it is not one that says we cannot ever have a queer politics, but utilizes elements of queerness and we're able to evoke a certain notion of queerness. And his emphasis on queerness is to move it, the identity of queerness out of the academy and move it into the tangible reality that affects material bodies in order to figure out how material bodies create change. So, the quote that Judy gave of Robin, that teachers must teach and not just think about Foucault, seems incredibly relevant in this instance, because what we're doing in academic settings is that we're espousing these philosophies and these ways that we can move forward progressively. But if that doesn't do anything besides leave the page, we might as well, be talking to ourselves in the mirror. We need to be able to figure out ways to get other material bodies to change for a queer politics to ever be realized in order to cause other people to change the ways that they interact with the world, opposed to just writing another paper, publishing another book. Because if our endpoint is just to advance our CVs, we're not doing anything that is truly liberatory or truly promoting social justice, but we're rather just sort of, pontificating endlessly. And so one of the goals of this is trying to figure out ways in which we can move our pontifications into a material reality that can then move us forward productively. So, how has this changed my actions in terms of these forms of reflections? First, it means that I no longer use a militant veganist approach when I interact with others. I used to be, you have to be vegan. Being vegan is the only way to be. If you aren't vegan, then you're not doing the best for the world and the environment. And this created, it did get some people to change, but it also created a lot of backlash. At the same time, when people are like, well, I can't be vegan, I used to interrogate them. Well, why can't you do it? What's wrong? What's wrong with you that you won't be able to do these things? And some people would have a list of reasons, medical reasons for why they feel that they need to eat fish or dairy or whatever because they need iron in order to be able to survive or things like that. And while that may not be true in certain instances, that there are ways that they could be going vegan or vegetarian, what I realize is that forcing people to disclose their medical histories to justify what they eat to me is partaking in a forced confessionalized process that Foucault criticizes in his book Birth of a Clinic, because it recreates a power dynamic where, as the interrogators, the white male going to other individuals, I'm now telling them, well, why aren't you doing this? And if you can't justify why you're doing this, then you're doing something wrong. And that causes a situation where suddenly, I'm the priest in the conventional, and they have to tell me their entire life history, and I will either say, yep, okay, fine, I'll let you eat fish in this instance, or it creates a situation where they feel that they have to defend themselves in their individual practices. And that doesn't create a productive dialogue that can actually move us forward as a coalition versus me telling the stories for why I'm choosing to be vegetarian or why I'm choosing to live a vegan lifestyle, because that's something that can allow them to realize how different health issues that I face is ones that they also can face as well, and then ways in which that they can move forward productively without having to feel like they have to justify themselves to another individual. It also means that I've given up trying to convince people to go vegetarian or vegan based upon appeals to health, normalcy, or nature. Is being vegetarian and vegan a healthier lifestyle? Sure. But to try and use health as a yardstick for why people should go vegetarian reassumes a very normal version of what healthy looks like. So when someone confronts someone who is overweight, like for you to be like, oh, you're overweight and you're obese, and therefore you should go vegetarian because that'll make you thin, is the exact same thing that people were criticizing PETA for in the way that beauty is constructed as this is the way you can look sexy as a vegetarian, opposed to focusing on the ethical imperatives to go vegetarian. Yeah, should they go to Burger King 10 times a week? No. Should I utilize the lack of health as, their lack of health by going to Burger King as a reason for why they go vegetarian? Probably not, even if that might be a true argument, because that is a way to just reproduce fatism that continues to discriminate against those people who do not have the normal body in the way that we move forward. And so, even if some arguments may be true in the way that we approach vegetarianism and veganism, asserting them to all individuals universally is not the most productive way to do it, because it puts people immediately on the defensive, opposed to allowing them to be able to open up to the coalitions that we wish to be able to form. It also means that I made the realization that I will always fail. I will never be able to do enough. And that there is no way that I will ever be able to get past all these isms. But that this does not create an excuse for me not to try. So, for instance, I organized this conference, and after reserving a space in the university, I went there 2 weeks ago and I discovered the lecture halls that they had assigned me only had stairs. And then in order for someone in a wheelchair to be able to present, they would have to go out, go around to the back of the lecture hall, take an elevator, go down, and get there. That was very complex. And so then I found this room that has ramp accessibility, but as I learned yesterday, Robin, it does not have a button to press that will open the doors, which is the instance of where I failed to organize this conference in ways that is truly accessible to all individuals. Does this mean that the conference in itself was a failure? No, but it also means that I was not entirely successful in my attempts to move forward. So part of what a queer vegetarian politics means to me is a world in which we always already admit that we will fail, that we will never be successful in what we achieve to mean, and that we should not pride ourselves on whether or not our event or our individual action is successful. The quickest way to burn out as an academic or an activist is that every time you go to a protest, you expect to win the fight that you have. The quickest way to burn out as an academic is that you think that your publication will actually get published. It is about the process that one goes through that is more transformative and beneficial than is that endpoint that's actually realized. Because through those ongoing struggles, there will be failures and there will be successes. But it's important to not let those failures be a failure that ends the movement, but means that we get up and we try again, but next time we hope to fail differently than we did beforehand. So we utilize the past as a way for us to figure out new ways to move forward without allowing it to eliminate our ability, without allowing us to essentially give up and get burnt out by the ways that we go about doing it, because we've learned from our mistakes, but simultaneously admit that we will make new mistakes and we'll never hit that point of perfection. So sometimes I'm willfully ignorant. When I went out to dinner last night, Anthony made it apparent that when I go to restaurants, I do not ask as many questions as I need to about whether or not the buns, the beer, and everything else that's served there are actually vegetarian or vegan.